European leaders representing Germany, France, Italy, the UK, the European Commission and NATO have finally returned home from Washington after meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Donald Trump at the White House this week. The EU leaders vowed to support Ukraine in peace negotiations with Russia. For more on this, we go to DW correspondent Emily Leshner from Berlin. Emily, good to have you. Remind us what the main goal was for EU leaders that touched down in Washington, and by that measure, did they actually achieve it?
Well, one of the key aims for Europe was getting Trump to agree to security guarantees for Ukraine should serious peace negotiations begin to take shape. And they did that. There aren't a lot of details yet about what these security guarantees would be, but Trump did say the U.S. could provide air support. And something else that the EU probably considered an achievement, or at the very least, a favorable outcome of the meeting, is the fact that there was no mention of Ukraine conceding land to Russia as a prerequisite for starting peace talks, which is something that Putin has insisted on. He wants parts of Donetsk and Luhansk, key strategic territories that could give Russia a military advantage down the road. And Zelensky has repeatedly said that Ukraine is not willing to relinquish land for a peace deal. Now, a lot of people expected this to be a central point at the talks because it came up during Putin's meeting with Trump in Alaska last week. This is just days before Trump called this impromptu meeting with EU officials and with Zelensky. So in terms of measuring how successful Europe was at achieving their goals at the meeting, they walked in determined to show unity amongst themselves and solidarity with Ukraine. They did that. They wanted security assurances from Trump, which they got, at least for now.
Also, is there anything else about this meeting that was particularly notable?
Well, there were certainly some things happening in between the lines that observers picked up on. For example, the fact that the European leaders formed a semicircle around Zelensky when everyone was in the meeting room. That was interpreted as a signal of EU's protectiveness of Ukraine, because it appeared that the EU leaders were trying to shield Zelensky from any more uncomfortable interactions with Trump after the very heated meeting between Zelensky, Trump, and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance back in February, where Trump and Vance accused Zelensky of not being grateful enough to the United States. This was the same visit where Trump criticized the army green casual wear that Zelensky has committed to putting on since the start of Russia's invasion. His wardrobe choice is regarded as a sign of solidarity with Ukrainian troops. But at this most recent meeting at the White House, Zelensky was in a button-down shirt and a tie, this time all in black instead of army green. And the change of dress was something that Trump picked up on and even commented on, although Kyiv has said that there was no meaning behind the change in Zelensky's clothing.
Also, Emily, the big question, what happens next?
Well, after the meeting, the EU leaders met for a debrief to start fleshing out the details of the security commitments that they're willing to make. Even with a pledge of support from the U.S., Trump still expects Europe to be what he's calling the first line of defense. Trump has also now proposed a trilateral meeting between himself, Putin, and Zelensky, and that could be tricky to pull off for a few reasons. One is that there's an international criminal court warrant that's active for Putin. And so there are very few countries that would be able to host him without being forced to arrest him. Geneva has been proposed as a potential meeting point. This is after Switzerland said that it would grant Putin temporary immunity should he agree to attending peace talks. Politico reported yesterday that Budapest is being considered seriously as a location, but that might be putting the cart before the horse a bit, because it's not even really clear at the moment if Putin or Zelensky are willing to participate. Putin suggested a similar meeting back in May and then sent a delegation instead of attending himself when Zelensky demanded that a ceasefire was a prerequisite for peace talks. So there are a lot of ifs in the air, a lot of details that still need to be ironed out before a meeting can happen. And as German Chancellor Friedrich Merz puts it, things are about to get a lot more complicated.
All right, Emily, thank you so much for all those updates from Berlin.